I'm back. Yours truly, one and only Paul Pickett, host of the Paul Pickett Podcast, aka Triple P, aka the Common Sense Podcast, your source for music, sports, politics, sport events, and much, much more. Today, I'm going to react to a video. Stephen A. Smith admits that ESPN got too political and drove away fans on the Pat McAfee show, which I like Pat McAfee show. But before we get into that, let's give you a word from promopalace.biz.
Are you a musician looking for music marketing and promotion? Then look no further than Promo Palace LLC, your one-stop shop for all music promotion services. Services include Spotify playlist pitching, YouTube video promotion, record pool promotion, blog placements, radio airplay promotion, SoundCloud promotion, and much more. With over 2,000 customers and over 10 years of experience in online promotion, Promo Palace LLC is a company you can trust. For more info, please go to promopalace.biz. See you there.
That's right. You heard the beautiful lady. You need online marketing promotions. Check us out. Promopalace.biz. One-stop shop for pretty much everything. Music, product, brand, or your service. And let's get into it.
For the last several years, we've seen ESPN continue to go downhill, see them continue to bleed viewers as they push identity politics, push social justice, and continue to make political talking points more important than the sports they're covering. And now, the face of the company is even admitting that. Stephen A. Smith, who has had a lot of takes I don't agree with over the years, certainly, is coming out and straight up admitting that we were pushing people away, that we got so invested in politics that we decided we need to put a stop to this because people are leaving. Stephen A. Smith, we did get to a point over the years at ESPN where it was too much politics. Now, I heard this live on the Pat McAfee show. I think yesterday was when Stephen A. Smith was on there. He was talking about DeMar Hamlin. He was talking about the playoffs. He was talking about everything, right? But at the beginning, when he said why he's starting his own personal podcast that talks about things other than sports, he gave a reason why, and it was very, very damning for ESPN. Stephen A. Smith is one of the biggest personalities in sports media and has become the highest paid employee at ESPN, making a whopping $12 million per year. Some people hate him, others love him, but there's no denying he's always polarizing. Smith recently joined Pat McAfee's podcast to promote his new No Mercy podcast, which is completely owned by him and not affiliated with ESPN. And we're going to let him talk a little bit here because he says why he wanted to do this podcast that wasn't sports. Pat asks a probing question, and then Stephen A. continues to give the reason that we have known for a long time about what's going on at ESPN.
But to me, I didn't want to be limited and confined to the world of sports. It was important to me to be able to expand my horizons and step out beyond that because there's a lot of politics, social issues, pop culture and entertainment, Kanye West to Kyrie, the list goes on and on. I like to be able to talk about all of it and not be limited by it. And I couldn't do that doing a sports podcast for ESPN.
Wonder
so
why?
it was important for me to own and operate my own.
Now, Pat says that's weird because, to me, I've seen a lot of these sports networks, probably ESPN included, really focusing pretty hardcore on politics lately.
I thought there was a time there where that was almost being promoted at some sports networks, not just ESPN, but everywhere. Was that something that you thought you wanted to do more of because they were telling you to do more of there for a time? Or was there a conversation about you should do less politics on ESPN? Or did you just feel like it wasn't the right time or place and you're looking for the right time or place, and that's on No Mercy where you can really dive in a little bit deeper? Or how'd that all come about, you think, with
I've never been an aficionado when it comes to the world of politics or even social justice issues, but I've always had a passion for current news. I've been a journalist my entire career. And so for me, I've always paid attention to what's going on in the world of news. When Jimmy Pitaro came on board, obviously he made a concerted effort for us not to get into politics per se. And I want to tell you that I stood up and support him on that, and I still do, because we did get to a point over the years at ESPN where it was too much politics. It was the politicization of too many different things. And with the sports fan got to a point where they were sending a message that they didn't feel like their needs were being met. And so Jimmy Pitaro comes on board and he instantly addressed that. And I supported that because I think people have a right to get what they tune in to see from you.
I mean, before he finishes, I've always been a strong opponent of I don't want politics in my sports. When I watch sports, I'm watching sports to get away from the politics. Like, we watch entertainment to be entertained, not to be lectured and criticized why we're watching a fucking movie or a TV show or a podcast or whatever it may be. I've always said this. There's no place for politics in sports or entertainment, period. Entertainment is supposed to be entertaining. And once you just politicize everything and it's all about you lecturing me, virtual signaling, or shaming me, into liking what you're making, then it's not fucking entertaining anymore. It's just bullshit. Let's keep it moving.
My argument, however, was, yes, I will give you that. But when I step away and I have other interests, there's nothing wrong with that either. And then the argument was.
Now, and I think, listen, that's obvious. To any normal fucking person, that has been obvious. That's why ESPN has been failing. That's why woke sports media has been failing. Fans have been stepping away because it's just so overtly political and only to one side. That's why so many people have a problem with that. But for Stephen A. Smith to acknowledge that, for ESPN to acknowledge that, yet you still will tune in there nearly daily and still see what seems to be some pretty political content at times is kind of weird. The fact that what we see now is with them acknowledging that there was too much politics, and we're still seeing stuff like this. Stephen A. Smith's certainly not blameless when it comes to that. He's involved things like that before. But I do think at the same time, if you watch enough Stephen A. Smith, you can say that he doesn't necessarily take the same position every single time on a lot of these things. Sometimes he's shockingly, Stephen A. Smith is somewhat a little more nuanced at times than a lot of other people at ESPN, which is a really sad thing for ESPN. But to hear it coming out of Stephen A. Smith's mouth is pretty amazing, isn't it?
And you know what? That's why Stephen A. Smith on his new show, he's taking slack. They're going at him because he's interviewing like Sean Hannity and stuff like that. I would say Stephen A. Smith and Charlamagne Tha God, even though they lean more liberal Democrat, they don't know it, but they're probably more conservative than they think. And I like both of them to the sense that they're willing to sit down with people on both sides of the aisle. And that's the problem that's going on. You got two sides of the aisle. You got conservatives and liberals. And you got liberals, if you go on their show, all they're going to do is get ready to attack you, call you names, and try to shame you. But if you go on conservative, they just want to have a honest, truthful discussion. They're not going to resort to just name calling and stuff. Like when what's his name? I can't think of the guy's name for Florida, but he was on the Joy Reid show. I think it's Byron something. And every time he was saying something, she's like, "That's wrong. That's not true. That's not true. That's not true. And it was true. What he was saying was true. But that's how they do. They just try to, shame you, talk you down, and attack you in any way, in any manner. And it don't take a rocket scientist to know that ESPN has lost censorship because you basically took a political stance. And I think they didn't really analyze that political stance is that all your fans that watch the NBA let's start with the NBA because they really got political. All the fans that watch the NBA that voted for Trump, you basically called them white supremacist, racist motherfuckers when you took your political stance, because that's what liberals have said. And that's why I've gotten so more involved in this political discussion. I didn't really care as much until liberals came out and not accused me, because I never voted Republican or for Trump in my life. They accused my sister and my brother-in-law for being white racist supremacists just because they voted for Trump. And my sister and brother-in-law are far more decent human beings than anybody I fucking know on this planet. I could tell you that much. My brother-in-law is probably the most decent human being I fucking know on this planet, And yeah, he's a Christian, and that probably offends you liberals and you far left motherfuckers. And I'm not a Christian one bit. I live off the laws of nature, but honest, decent human beings are honest, decent human beings with or without fucking religion, you know? Like, it's just, it's like being decent shouldn't come from a religious standpoint of view. Being honest shouldn't come from a religious standpoint of view. It just should come from being what humans have always tried to say we thrive to be. You know, if we thrive to be so much more superior than animals, then we need to be really honest and decent, as far as I'm concerned. Thank you for tuning in once again, Paul Pickett Podcast.